What is up, fight fans? This is Good Guy Rick checking in to preview UFC 249, which is coming to us live from Jacksonville, Florida, tomorrow, Saturday, May 9th, on pay-per-view. First off, I hope everyone's doing well and staying healthy through these difficult times. I am doing well, and even better now that we have live MMA back in our lives. 3 cards scheduled over the next 8 days to be precise, but let's focus on the big one. UFC 249 Ferguson versus Gaethje. We've got the 12-fight main card, and a lot of these fights were scheduled to take place over the last 7 weeks, but because of COVID-19, all those scrap cards have been jumbled around and put together into this fairly stacked showing. The card is headlined by a firefight and features the return of the bantamweight GOAT Dominick Cruz in the co-main event. Honestly, the $64.99 cost of the main card is pretty steep, though I'm a degenerate MMA fan, so you got me on this one, Ultimate Fighting Championship. Alright, so let's get into these picks. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, though I might ramble when it comes to some of the Ultimate Fighter and World Series of Fighting alumni here. First off, we got Ryan Spann versus Sam Alvey, our first tough alumni, Smiling Sam. Ryan Spann is going to frustrate Alvey quickly. I am a little nervous about picking Spann just because of that knockout he took against Carl Roberson on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, though I think he's rattled like 4 or 5 wins since that. And he is just going to be too much for Smiling Sam here. Smiling Sam is going to be frustrated by either the stoppage or the decision here because that's the type of warrior he is, though. Next up, we got Thug Nasty, Bryce Mitchell versus Charles Rosa. And this is one of the first kind of old versus new guard we have. Charles Rosa, though, hasn't had many fights, has been in the UFC, it feels like, for 10 years. Probably more like 6. He's actually the trainer of Greg Hardy, I believe. Though I think the World Series of Fighting alumni Bryce Mitchell will finish him here by a second or third round stoppage. Next, we got a rematch between 2 violence machines, Vicente Luque and Nico Price. Now, Nico Price is a madman, and he has gotten a lot better since that first loss to Luque, though I just don't see many ways he catches Luque unless those wars are starting to wear on the Brazilian here. Luque by finish and a dark horse to be fight of the night. Now we're on the ESPN prelim card starting at 8 p.m. Uriah Hall, tough alum, takes on Jacare Souza, former Strikeforce champ. I was convinced coming in Souza would ultimately be a UFC champion, but after taking that loss to Jan Blachowicz at 205, I'd say those days are past him. Uriah Hall also is, a championship or at least a contender tier fighter, though he just has never seemed to put the mental side of his game along with the skills he has. Though I think, now is that time for him to make that push in what is a do-or-die fight for both of these guys. Though I see Uriah Hall doing it and possibly finishing Jacare Ronaldo Souza here. Next, we have Carla Esparza versus Michelle Waterson. Carla Esparza was the first ever UFC strawweight champion coming off TUF 20. And I just think ultimately, her grappling skills are going to be the difference here. Michelle will have some moments, I think, with the kickboxing. Will lure Carla into some striking exchanges, but I think Carla's pressure, takedowns, and, grinding fight style against the cage will wear on Waterson for the better part of the 3 rounds. Cookie Monster with the W. Now we got the first of 3 heavyweight contests here as Alexei Oleinik takes on the former champion Fabricio Verdum. I want to pick Oleinik, love him, all the crazy submission he's put out there, the Ezekiel chokes, but Verdum coming off the 2-year suspension for PEDs, he's feels like he missed out a lot of time and money opportunities, so I think he's going to go out there a little bit reckless, and I don't think Oleinik's got the knockout power to make him pay for it. Fabricio Verdum beats him up on the feet, and he's ultimately better than him on the ground. So this could be a bit of a sloppy affair, but I do see Fabricio Verdum getting a submission win here, and which should be a fun one. Next, we got the preliminary main event on ESPN right around 9:30. I think this will go down. Cowboy Cerrone versus Anthony Pettis. The final of the three former champs, Anthony Pettis here on the prelims. Man, I've been going back and forth with this one. Gut says Pettis. Cerrone's coming off 3 losses in less than a year, all worse than the one before. But something in my gut says that he'll be competitive in this fight, much more competitive than the past 2, and it is a rematch, and I think he'll be more competitive than the first time he fought Pettis, where he went down with a body kick. It's at 170, so both of the guys are up from the 155 weight class where they've had most of their success. Should help Cerrone absorb a little bit more to the shots to the body, though I think Pettis outpoints him in another fun one. And now we are in to the pay-per-view, kicked off by Greg Hardy versus Yorgan De Castro, which I know I'm not alone when I say this fight does not have any business being on a pay-per-view. It has nothing to do with the background of either of these men, just more of where they're at in their careers. I think Greg Hardy's 2-2-1. Yorgan De Castro is 6-0 with 1 UFC fight. They're definitely trying to bank off Greg Hardy's name, get a couple casual NFL fans to tune in, probably to see him get knocked out, but I don't think this is the guy to do it. De Castro won his first UFC fight because his opponent decided just to run at him with his hands down. We saw Greg Hardy's last fight against Alexander Volkov, who is a top 5 heavyweight, and he did not get finished. He was very patient, looked for his shots, but just was outskilled. I think he is outskilled by Yorgan De Castro, but I don't think De Castro will be able to make up the athleticism gap that he has against Hardy. I think Hardy will get the finish here, and yeah, hopefully he can. Either of these guys can get a couple finishes and earn their spot on the pay-per-view with the other guys that have been there a lot longer than them. Next, we got Jeremy Stephens and Calvin Kattar. I do think, this is a great fight in the 145 division. I think Jeremy Stephens still has a lot left in that division, even though he did miss weight today by, I think, 4.5 pounds. I do think Kattar's going to get the W. I just think he is kind of putting it all together at the right time. And though Stephens is no easy out and hits as hard as any at 145, I think Kattar will be able to stifle his game and win a close decision here. Now we got the crown jewel of the heavyweight fights on the card. Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Probably said the first name wrong. I really think that both guys got a chance to win this. I just don't see it lasting long once they start throwing. Now, I said the same exact thing for Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou a couple summers ago. And we all remember what a stinker that one turned into. But I think right here, Ngannou is coming off 3 straight knockout victories. In that defeat to Stipe, the champion of the heavyweight division. He knows what heavyweight and championship fighters look like in that division now. He's gone up against him. He knows where he's got to get better and ultimately what he's got to do to win fights. And I think that learning experience is what we're seeing. He's not afraid to let it all out, and he's going to do that early to Rozenstruik. I think if Rozenstruik can survive the first 2 rounds, he's got a chance to get him, because obviously, these are 2 massive men and they're going to get tired. But we know Rozenstruik can land that one hitter quitter at the end a la the Overeem knockout. Ngannou by second round knockout. I think this one will be fun, unlike the Francis Ngannou Derek Lewis fight. This will be the redemption fight here. Then we got the bantamweight GOAT, Dominic Cruz, up against Henry, the King of Cringe, Cejudo. I do think the King of Cringe is going to keep the gold here. It just seems impossible for Dominic Cruz to take 2 3-year layoffs and come back to reclaim the spot on the top of the mountain. He has the skills to outbox Cejudo, but I think we saw in Cejudo's last fight against Marlon Moraes, even if he gets outboxed for a round or two, he'll make the necessary adjustments, change his game plan, and, throw with force. And, I just don't see how Dominic Cruz can take those shots for the later half of the fight. Cejudo by knockout, 3rd round. Now it's time for the main event. Tony El Cucuy Ferguson versus Justin the Highlight Gaethje. Heart is rooting with Tony Ferguson. Got to root for the man from Muskegon, Grand Valley State alumni. Though that being said, I do think Justin Gaethje is going to tag him, and I'm nervous that Tony Ferguson's not going to be able to escape Justin Gaethje's power. I could see it getting into later rounds for a Tony Ferguson submission. And I'm really rooting for it, like I said, not only because he's from Michigan, but also I want that Khabib Nurmagomedov unification bout after that Dana White is supposedly promised. Whether, he gets it or not, I'll be rooting for Tony Ferguson, but I am picking Justin Gaethje to land the knockout punch in the 2nd round. Thanks for listening. These were some tough fights to pick, both in the skill sense, matchups, and then having to pick against some guys and girls that you really like and wish didn't have to fight each other or take L's right now. I'll be doing more of these videos with my fight picks, and I will promise to try and get them out sooner, though better late than never. Let me know who you got this Saturday on Twitter at @the_MMA_pig. This is Good Guy Rick saying stay home, stay safe, and enjoy the face punching. Peace. And we have breaking news. So right before I finished editing this to post it, news broke that Ronaldo Jacare Souza tested positive for COVID-19, and his bout versus Uriah Hall is going to be scrapped for Saturday. Wow. So, definitely thought this would happen or someone would come out of it maybe from the weekend, but the day before, that is pretty crazy. It's now coming to light, I guess, that he did inform the UFC on Wednesday when he got in town that he had a family member who had tested positive. But obviously, he did not show any symptoms. He's been isolated the entire time because of that and was tested. So they haven't said how much contact he's had with his team members yet, though he was the only fighter to be wearing gloves at the weigh-ins and face-off they had against Uriah Hall. And him and Uriah Hall did keep distance, obviously, but gotta wonder about how many other hallways or elevators that other fighters, other trainers, family members, had gone in. I think they're staying in a hotel, actually with some AEW wrestlers who are also filming in the Jacksonville area. So, they say he's isolated, but how isolated was that? Was he in those public facilities? Let's hope for the best. Hope, the card goes on, knock on wood, without any other issues related to COVID-19 or otherwise. Hope the best for everyone. Hope Jacare gets healthy quick so he can, get back to fighting, presumably in a couple months. Well, take care, everyone. Peace.